All right, so in this next video, we are going to take our current user, which we learned how to set in the last video, and we're going to then apply it to this My Profile page. And so what I've done is I've actually, if you have been following along this whole time, you may have recalled that on the sign up form, I had all of the inputs of the form on that sign up page. What I'm referring to is this right here. Well, the My Profile page is going to be using a form that's very similar to it. And so I actually refactored and made a form component in and of itself. And so that way, now I can just pass in the form component with passing in a property of user, a property of submit. That's a function that will be defined in the parent component, and then also the text that I want to appear on the submit button. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm just hard coding a user, right? So I've now created a user, and I'm passing that into this form, and so that I see this here. And so this has nothing to do with our data. This is all strictly hard coded, as you can see here. If I change this to Bob, then that changes to Bob as well, right? So you can see that. And so what we want to do, of course, is take our current user that we now have available to us and set it that way, right? So now I have a current user. I want to take this data and pass it into My Profile. So let's do that. So if you recall, the first thing we have to do, if this is not already a component that is wrapped in the connect feature from React Redux, then we need to go ahead and import connect. So import connect from React Redux. And then down here, we're going to say export default connect. And then think about, do we need to connect something that is purely data, or do we need to connect some sort of action? And so all we have to do right now is we just need to get the current user. And so we're going to say map state to props. So now we have a const map state to props equals state. And then we're going to say current user equals state dot user reducer current user. All right. So if you remember our user reducer, we are exporting this user reducer, and we have something on it called current user, and so that's what we're referring to. So right now it's empty, right? And so by default there's nothing there. And so now what I'm going to do is I want to say const user equals this dot props dot current user. So now I would expect already that this should work. If I go to My Profile, I've got that. Awesome. What I would expect is nothing. Now if I said become this user, there you go. I can apply that to different users as well. You get the idea. Okay. And so now one thing I like to do, rather than use this syntax, I like to use destructuring. And so I'm actually going to change this variable name to that and wrap it in curly brackets. If you're unfamiliar with this syntax, it's kind of a shorter, more concise way to write. So basically I'm saying I'm taking whatever this key value would be here, and I'm then assigning it to its own variable, and that's what these brackets do. And so now I've got to pass in current user instead, and so that should still work. Let's see, and it does. Okay, so the next thing we've got to do now is actually talk about how we're going to update this component. If you can see, I've already got, because of this form component that I built, I can already change it. It's already being stored to the local state of that component. But now what we've got to do is tell it what to do whenever we click this update button. So when we come back in the next video, we will implement that ability as well.